is shaking out there, everybody? JT here in the studio with you, Studio 10-4 Live, here for another week, another show. And we got something we don't usually get, man. We got the law on our side over here today. We have somebody that's going to be coming into the studio and giving us the lowdown on what this trucker blitz week, trucker, I mean, it goes hand in hand. Blitz week, which is really only 2 days, is all about. And it looks to me, and I went online just to kind of get a handle on it, kind of a multi organization authority event, and there's different dates, and so it's kind of confusing because FMCSA says one thing and CVSA says another thing, and anyway, it's just kind of hard to decipher it all. So hopefully we can get Trooper Dial in here, and we'll get him to help sort it all out. 3 days. Thanks, Gerald. Yeah, it's the 14th, 15th, and 16th. Yeah, 3 days. There you go. So, but if you go to FMCA, their website, it's 8th through the 11th or something. Anyway, I'm not going to go into it. There's just too confusing. But Oscar, good to have you on the show as well. I'm kind of bummed out today because I had gone in to do the show promo, and something is malfunctioning in you know what, Facebook wouldn't let me do my normal invites. So if you look at this later and you didn't get invited today, it wasn't my fault. The damn thing just wouldn't let me do it. So hopefully we'll be able to get that straightened out at some point. Facebook, it's so random what kind of works and doesn't. So you're at the mercy of it, and it is what it is. So good week and good things going on. Holidays are coming up. Memorial Day weekend anyways. I don't know if that means a lot to anybody out there that has to work through it. I understand that. I've done it myself. The Memorial Day weekend, though, it can be a nice time if you have it available to remember and celebrate all those all those that have given the ultimate sacrifice in service of our country in the armed forces. And I know there's a lot of confusion about what, these different Veterans Day, Memorial Day, Labor Day, all this stuff, what it is, but it's important to get it right. So that way, those that do have this holiday designated for them do get the proper recognition. So Pete Henderson, man, you're late, Pete. You're a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, fifth in. But that's okay, brother. Good to have you on the show. Miss Shannon jumped in. I see that. Hey. And Dan Lynn's, of course, in there with us as well. You guys may have remembered a while back, and I mean, not that far, not that long back, and then for a long time during that period, there was a team of guys that used to be at the shows, and mostly GBATs, GATS, Great American Truck Show. There's all these MATs, GATs, GBATs. We got too many. But the GATS shows, and listen, raise your hand if you remember GATS, right? Of course you do. And there was this one truck, and this truck and these guys used to be right across from our booth, kind of, from what I remember. They were right across from us, and it was the old blue team. And these were the law enforcement guys that would bring that old A model Kenworth. I'm looking at a picture of it over here, and the white trailer behind it. They had the old blue written all over it, old blue USA. And it was a friendly way to get knowledge from the guys that matter. And they were there for everybody to answer any questions they could. And Trooper Dial, who's going to be coming up here in a minute, he was the guy that kind of had this stuff in his head, and he could rattle it off without having to go into the book. So good guy to have around. Miss Jean in the show. Hi, Jean. Good to have you back. Charles, what's going on, buddy? Charles Hale, everybody. Gary Jones, what? What's going on, Gary? How you doing, buddy? And good to have Gary, always a part of the 10-4 Cover Trucker family, and good to have back on the show. So nice to see you, man. Anyway, my introduction to these guys was at Matt's and then Gats. So I had Matt's, Gats, and I don't know if they ever made it to G-Bats, but uh, I did see him there. I did meet him there, and Trooper Dial probably doesn't remember because I know I don't, but I do remember walking over to the guys, shaking their hands, and getting to know them a little bit, and of course, checking the whole deal that they had their booth and setup, which was of course that truck and their guys, and these were these were guys that were in service at the time, troopers that were in service. So it was kind of cool to be a part of that, and then eventually 10-4 magazine ended up getting involved and producing every month, or whenever it was available, the question and answer session that went on in the magazine. Questions asked, questions answered. So uh, that kind of slowed off a little bit, and I'll let Trooper Dial explain why. I'll let Trooper Dial explain why, because he was closer to RJ than I certainly ever was, and he was a good friend of Dan's too. So Dan wants to jump in and chime in. He's absolutely more than welcome to do so. But I wanted to share something special with you guys before I bring Trooper Dial in. We've got a show coming up June 19th, Wednesday. Mark it on your calendar. And I'll tell you why after I get done talking with Trooper Dial, but just let me tell you this, mark it on your calendar and be here for the show. We got something so freaking cool. Every now and then we get these kind of deals, and this is one of them. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. You guys are going to have to stay tuned to hang with me and find out what that is. Right now, I want to bring Trooper Dial in. How you doing, sir?
I am doing great, John.
Good to have you, man. It was, it was a little iffy there for a while. We had to bring your daughter in to get us hooked up, but hallelujah, we got it done, right?
Yes, we did.
And here's the funny thing about that. I mean, the app that we use to bring you the Studio 10 4 live weekly update, it's called StreamYard. And it has a hard time working with Apple. And that's just the way it is. And I don't know if that's because of StreamYard or if it's because of Apple, but it is, again, just the way it is. So you have to go and take some special steps to get through that and get it running on an Apple computer. And guess what Trooper Dial has? He's got an Apple computer. So luckily we have I said to him, I said, do you have a young person in there? He says, oh yeah. And so that was his daughter who came in, who, by the way, happens to be a school teacher and helped us out and got everything straightened out. So congratulations to Laura, your daughter, and having to help us get where we need to be today.
Yes, yes. Sometimes it has. It helps to have someone that has a special skill dealing with stuff 72-year-old people can't handle.
Yes, sir. Hey, no, I don't smell. I don't sell smartphone. I got a guy in the office, David. No, I don't sell smartphones. And if I did, they wouldn't be iPhones. So, that's probably going to hurt. That won't get that sponsorship, will we? But yeah, no, I'm an Android guy, PC guy, and I got an iPad, but that's only because I have to for a certain set of devices that I use that require the iPad to run it. Trooper Dial, let's talk a little bit about where you came out of and how you and Old Blue RJ, right, got connected, and
Okay.
and how did that take shape and form? We kind of talked a little bit about it ourselves, but let's share that with everybody.
Starting back in the late 90s, RJ was at that time was taking his truck to Matt's. He would go down, set up, and at that time it was nothing more than a show truck. But RJ had this vision. I'll say a vision that he wanted to take and get law enforcement and the truck drivers connected. So wherever he went to, he would always contact the local highway patrol and get something set up to where they were close together. Well, in Louisville, it just so happened that the Kentucky Highway Patrol was right across the road from him. So they would truck drivers would come and get to talking to RJ about his truck, and first thing you know, one question led to another, led to another. And RJ would say, "Well, go right across the deal and ask the drivers, ask the troopers the question." They said, "No, no, 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 no. If I do that, they're going to take and write my name down, and then they're going to come hunt and find me." And RJ said, "No, no, no, that's not how it works." So anyway, a couple of years later, uh, things didn't work out at Matt's anymore. So things kicked off at Gats. So he decided, hey, let's go to Gats. So he contacted the captain and said, hey, I'm coming to Dallas to do a show. Is there someone that you can take and send over to WBAP and let's do a live show on WBAP?
By the way, everybody, that of course you can see it there from 2000. That's Matt's, and that is the show you're talking about there, sir.
Yes, sir. So anyway, they sent a trooper over, and with Eric Harley when he was doing the Midnight Trucking Show, things didn't go quite as Eric had wanted them to go. So the next year he came back and that called the same captain back up and said, "Hey, can you send me somebody else?" Well, that was when I got the knock on the door. Says, "Hey, have I got a deal for you?" So anyway, that was how I ended up being involved with RJ Taylor. We did the show from time to time, and even after uh, Eric would call RJ and say, "Hey, I've got a period here tonight that I'm dead. Can you send Trooper Dial over?" Knock comes on the door again. "Hey, have I got a deal for you?" So we'd go over and do the show. Of course, RJ would always be on the in the background just to make sure everything went fine. So this went on, and at that time, uh, the Midnight Trucking Show was being carried by Sirius XM. Well, Mark Willis came along, who happened to be the host for Open Road Cafe.
I remember it.
He ended up saying, "Hey, I want you over on my show too." Well, the thing was, we would get off at 5 o'clock over on Eric's show. We would have to haul ass across town to make it to Eric's or to Mark's show, and we would take and do another 5 hour session there. This
Wow.
this kept going on and on and on and on and on, and then finally WBAP sold, and they kind of uh, pushed us to the side. Mark Willis kept us going for a while, and then all of a sudden things changed. And instead of having the morning show, he went to the afternoon show and doing Road Dog Live. Well,
Right.
he ended up contacting me, and of course, in the meantime, we lost our leader, RJ, and so uh, Mark remembered me. He reached out to me, and I told him, says, "Yes, I will gladly do the show." So we are doing a monthly show on Sirius XM uh, called Ask the Law. But it ended up being uh, a good sponsor for us. We end up having some emails set up where drivers can take and submit questions. I do have another source because when I retired in 2008, the ELDs had not come on board. So I have no clue about an ELD.
Yep.
But David Coleman, who is now our leader, reached out and found us someone from Indiana that is currently working. So if somebody submits me a question, then I'm able to pass that along to Trooper Hoover, and he will respond. send it back to me, and I will forward it on to the person that asked the question. Uh, in the meantime, we had Dan would take and publish a Q&A session on in the 10-4 magazine. We also had someone at the Trucker that would do the same. But like I say, since we lost our leader, things have kind of mellowed out, got displaced, and so on and so forth. So I am more than happy to join the 10-4 magazine again.
Well, we're more than happy to have you. And by the way, Bubba, good to have you on the show as always, my brother. And Dan's comments, about Ask the Law, and I was familiar with you guys too, and so were a lot of other people. I think it was a pretty successful run for the time we had you. We need to get back to being able to have this resource as an open channel. And as you and I were talking, I'd love to have you back at least once a month. And if not more, if there is some other, question that comes up or some sort of thing that needs to happen, to get the word out to guys, that they need to hear, I would love to have that as available as well. But definitely at least once a month. And while we're talking, we got the pictures going over here, and I see Old Blue pictured with the California Highway Patrol there and one of their commercial cruisers that we all know so well. Some more than others, but and that's okay. But
Yeah,
there was this.
RJ ended up, like I say, he ended up with, I know Kentucky, he ended up with Texas, and then also there were several shows in California that he did.
Yes.
I know he did one at Pomona, and there was one somewhere else that he would do in what he called his off season, and he would take and that was his goal, was to take and grab local law enforcement specializing in the commercial vehicle enforcement division, and would bring them in and would take and marry the troopers with the drivers. And like I say, when I was doing the show here in Dallas, we had no question that we would not answer. If somebody came up and asked us a question, we would sit there and give them an answer. And we would normally have in the GAT show, we would have a sergeant or a lieutenant, and usually 3 or 4 troopers, including myself. And that's what we would do, is we would sit there and respond. And we had, like I said, I hated that it ended, but I understand that COVID put a bite in a whole bunch of things.
Oh yeah.
They ended up canceling because of that. But I always enjoyed it. In fact, the some of the Texas DPS, right after we did the last show, when it came time for the next one, they would call me up and said, "Hey, we doing GATS again this year?" I said, "I haven't heard, but I'll check and find out." Well, that's when we found out that they had shut it down. But like,
Yeah.
I truly miss talking with the drivers and letting them know that, hey, if you have a question, come ask us and we will give you an answer. And it's like RJ would always say, you can take that answer to the bank.
Well, I think that the Pomona show that you were probably talking about was actually Irwindale, and it was Trucking for Kids, which
Right.
is now owned by 10-4 Charities. So we'd love to see that truck and you and the guys back at that show, and back to doing what you did before and making it happen again. We just finished 3 weeks ago Trucking for Kids 2024, and it was the biggest one ever. We had 300 trucks, and I
Wow.
don't know how, yeah, I don't know how many attendees, but we would sure like to see that happen. And we got something else coming up in November, and that's the 10-4 Trucker Rodeo that is going to be happening in Bakersfield, California. So maybe we'll talk some opportunities offline and see if we get the gang back together. But let's talk about this blitz that's going on right now in social media, which I follow and keep track of. A lot of drivers on there are talking about what a a fundraiser this is, and from some of their perspectives, at the other side of other perspective, it's let's get the junk off the road. If it's broken and you're running it, it shouldn't be running. And I see both sides of it, but I'm pretty safety conscious. So, if it takes somebody getting pulled over and inspected to get their truck fixed, that's too bad. It shouldn't be that way, but that's what it's going to take maybe to get that truck fixed. Now, that being said, the other guys, here's where I see the other side of the coin too. And that's that you get pulled over, you get inspected, that's downtime for you. And let's just say you're a guy that keeps track of his stuff and makes sure his equipment top shape and nothing's wrong with it. That's the part that gets me. So I know in California, and I don't know if this is everywhere because I only ran, pretty much California. I ran the West Coast. CVSA, you get that sticker in the window and you're kind of good sort of to go because they see that, and as long as it's current and active and they pull the corners off the tab, they pull that off so they know which time you were inspected in that quarter, I guess. You can go through a lot easier than a guy that doesn't have one, but it's an invitation. If you don't have that sticker, you're pretty likely to get pulled in. So what's your take on what we got going on right now, and how it was then and what you know about it now?
It's John, it's still the same. It's called road check, and from time to time, usually it happens once a year, and they run it for 72 hours. And what they do is they get with Mexico, they get with United States, and they get with Canada. All three countries will take and set up road checks. Now, in Texas, we will have several locations throughout the state, and we will take and bring a bunch of troopers in, and that's all they do is they do level one inspections. Uh, each year, CVSA comes in and says, "Hey, we want you to pay special attention to this item, this item, this item, this item." And I think this year, one of the things that they're looking at is impaired drivers
Oh,
operating under the influence of alcohol or drugs.
really?
What they do is they push out and says, "Hey, be on the lookout for this." But at the same time, we want you to do your level one inspection. And if the driver does pass the level one inspection, they will affix a CVSA decal in the lower right window or windshield of the driver. Now, one of the things that when I was working, drivers would say, "Well, I just got an inspection." "Well, where is it?" "Well, I turned it in." Well, what you need to do is you need to make a copy of that inspection. Now, I know there is a proposed rulemaking by FMCSA that you will no longer be required to turn in or return the inspection to the state that issued it. So, in other words, once you get the inspection, it goes to the motor carrier. Motor carrier puts it in the driver motor in the maintenance file for the truck. But before you do that, make a copy of the inspection. Carry it with you. That way, if you get stopped down the road, and those CVSA decals are good for 3 months at a time.
Right.
So if you get inspected, whether it be a level two or a level one, always make a copy. And when they pull you over, trooper walks up, says, "Hey, I'm Trooper Dial, Texas Department of Public Safety, need to do an inspection on your truck." "Trooper, just a minute. I've had an inspection." You'll go in and give me that copy of that inspection. What it does is it has violations, if there were any found, listed. Then all I have to do now then is go and inspect. Okay, you got this and this and this. That was all that was found. I go check it. Driver, have a good day. We'll see you later.
Or
So
there may not have been any violations at all,
if there were
and
no
he's good to go.
Right. If there were no violations, I'm not going to waste my time inspecting you because you already passed.
Right.
And that's the key is always make a copy of that inspection. Now, one of the things and that I learned in the 30 something years that I was doing commercial inspections, and yet nobody will sit there and tell you every April CVSA comes out with a list of what is a violation and what is an out of service. And what they do is a lot of this data is retrieved from the inspections that were conducted during the road check. So it's a deal that we encourage the drivers that go through and have the vehicles that passed, go through and get your inspection. You have nothing to hide. In fact, I would much rather inspect a truck that doesn't have any violations than I would spend an hour inspecting a truck that's got two-page violations.
Yeah.
So, the truck that has the two-page violation, he should not be out there to start with.
Right.
We're looking for the drivers that have the clean bill of health because as the more of those we have, the lower the out of service rate goes when it comes time to set CVSA's out of service rate.
Yep. Now, I had, like I said, I ran a clean fleet, and my guys all ran pre-pass. So in California, we were good to go. Now, Arizona, Oregon, Washington have their own enforcement, and they don't recognize, or didn't at the time recognize, pre-pass. So California, that was our golden ticket to, somewhat circumvent the scales and not lose that downtime. Like I said, me and what my business model meant was I need to get where I got to go and be there on time. And anytime I, stray from that, well, that's time out of my pocket. So in the pre-pass world, and I don't know if you have the answer to this, but let's find out. I went into the scales a couple of times because I had to go in there and sign paperwork or whatever I needed to do. There's screens up there, and the guys that are passing by on the road, they're passing by on the road. The guys that are in there, that are running the scale, I just don't see how there's no way you keep up with all those trucks going by, right? I mean, pre-pass or no pre-pass.
All right, let's backtrack to 2010
Okay, let's go.
when CVSA initially came up with what we call the CVSA 2010 or FMCSA 2010. That was where they took uh, the data that was collected from roadside inspections, put it in a database, and started rating carriers based upon the data that they retrieved off of roadside inspection. Fast forward 20 years, they now have a computer system, and most of the states that operate pre-pass systems, the roadside uh, scale locations have pre-pass set up, and if they have it set up to where they scan a truck when it comes underneath a screen or comes underneath a reader,
Yep.
and the company, the state has the ability to say, okay, this company has a green, has an excellent safety rating. So they automatically get the green pass.
Ha. There
If
you go,
we have,
guys.
if we have motor carriers that every time they stop and inspect one of them is going to be placed out of service, well, guess what? They now have a red light.
Yep.
So going down the interstate, they can take and select every third, fourth, fifth, however many trucks from this motor carrier that they want to let go through before one is pulled in. They're going to constantly check these guys, but the more inspection, the more pre-pass inspection locations you go through with the green means that you don't have to stop at every one of them.
Right.
You're going to get a notification on the dash that says you got a green light, keep going. You got
Yep.
a red light, pull over.
Yep.
So they have it set up to where they can take and instantaneously will tell you based upon how they have their perimeter set up, whether or not they're going to allow this truck to go, this truck to go through an inspection. So it's something that happens in milliseconds,
Right.
and it's behooves motor carriers that have the good inspection database because chances are they're going to get the green light every time they come to one.
Well, and there's a one of our guys, Victor Verrett. Yeah, Vic. You know what? And I can answer this one. Look, there's guys that are going to just be the way that they're going to be. They had a bad night. Their wife has been mad at them. They're mad at their wife. Whatever. People have bad days or bad attitudes. It's the same for the truckers. There's guys out there that got bad attitudes, and he's saying that this trooper in Orange, Texas, is writing tickets for cab lights being too close together on top of the cab. So, I mean, I don't know what to even say to that, except you never know. And I've experienced it. I can raise my hand. I have experienced the guy who's having a bad day, and I
My
mean, it just happens.
Yeah, my response to Victor is we have a process called a data queue. If you are leased to a motor carrier, get with your safety director. If you are the motor carrier, then you can do your own data queues. But what I would recommend that you do is go into 393.9. That's where you're going to find the lighting requirements. And to the best of my knowledge, there is nothing that says the light has to be this many inches from this many inches from that. It says you have to have one light on the left, one light on the right, three lights in the middle.
At minimum.
In
At
that,
a minimum.
that situation right there, Victor, get the reg book out and check and see what code he is using. If the code that he lists does not have anything that indicates a measurement between the lights, then you or your motor carrier needs to submit a data queue. The data queue goes to FMCSA in DC. They will take a look at it and they will turn it to the state where the inspection occurred. That state has to respond to FMCSA as to whether or not it was a good citation or if it was a bad citation.
I love it. Hey, I got to take a minute too, and I wanted to say thanks to Vanderswag Customs. They're help supporting us today here to bring the show to you guys. You saw them on the promo that we had out there, and of course up there right above me is their logo. So give them a look. They were looking good out at Matt's this year, and I'm not sure, but I'm assuming they went to 75 Chrome this year too. Um, Trooper Dial, I mean, sound advice, and here's what I like about what you're sharing with everybody is this is the steps 1, 2, 3, what you need to do to resolve an issue you might be having, and how things work. And listen, truckers never lie, they never exaggerate.
Well, it's,
Hey,
it's like
hey,
I've told, it's
tongue,
like I've
tongue in
told,
cheek there, buddy, tongue in cheek.
no, it's like I've told truck drivers at GATS. I said, I put my pants on just like you put your pants on.
That's right.
I have bad days. You have bad days. I have
Yes, sir.
good days. You have good days. And if it's one of those deals that I had a bad day that day and I issued you a warning or a citation or whatever, and I was wrong, I will sit there and admit I was wrong.
Yes, sir.
And this is how you go about doing.
Yeah.
Don't rely on truck stop lawyers to tell you this and tell you that.
There
Get
you
the
go.
rig book. Everybody, you can get on the internet and you can find the DOT regulations on the internet, and you can take and pull up that violation section number, read all about it, and if it does not cover what you were issued a citation or a warning for, then you need to follow the steps on how to do a data queue. And a lot
So
of them,
let's
and over the years, I've had a lot of them say, well, I submitted data queue and they sent it back and said, no, 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 that's not any good. Well, it's not that way anymore. We now have someone at FMCSA that is monitoring when a data queue is submitted, when it goes to the state, when the state responds, and it comes back to FMCSA, there is a individual or a group of people that are now reading those responses to the data queues. And if they feel that that state was wrong, they will sit there and correct it and take it off.
let's go back to what's going on currently right now, and that's the 3-day blitz that's happening. Do you have any insight on the data that they accumulate and the trucks that they inspect? Are we seeing trucks that they basically get a fix-it ticket? Or are we seeing a lot of trucks go out of service? Is it 50-50? What do you think that is right now?
A lot of it depends. Like I say, FMCSA, well, basically CVSA is a organization that is made up of the government, it's made up of law enforcement, and it is made up of those in the trucking industry. And they all get together throughout the year. And what they do is they look at all of the data that is collected from roadside inspections. And every April, they issue a new out of service. What was out of service last year, may not be an out of service violation this year. Or what was not an out of service item last year may be an out of service this year. But
Right.
what they do is they look at it, and based upon the discussions that are held by all of these individuals, they come up with what is out of service. If a truck goes through one of these roadside inspections, through road check, or even on a routine roadside inspection, if it meets the out of service criteria, it's you're done. You're
Yeah.
done. You ain't
Yeah.
going anywhere else. If it's something that you can take and repair, you can repair it right here. If not, then we'll call someone, or you can call someone, and you can tow it to a location and have it repaired. Now then, let
Excellent.
me give you an example.
Sure.
Some years back, we were had just outside of Dallas, in the city of Rockwall. We had a what we call a sergeant area wide inspection going on. We went out on the interstate, found us a truck, brought the truck in, did inspections, and so on and so forth. They also reminded us that, hey, we need you to do hazmat inspections. So I'm out inspecting. I see this truck go by and it's got an orange placard on it. And that orange placard says 1.4. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh boy, have I got me a good one. That means that this stuff is going to explode at any time.
Right.
So we pulled it back, and come to find out, the company was hauling the cruise missiles going from Arizona to Arkansas. We pulled him back there, started doing an inspection. We found an air leak. Uh, it just so happens that the air leak was sufficient enough that it put the vehicle out of service.
Oh,
It was a father and son team. They said, "Hey, if you will allow me, I will make my repairs right here, and you can re-inspect me." I said, "Go right ahead." I went out, did my inspect, got me another truck, brought it back in. He flagged me down and says, "I got it fixed." So we re-inspected his truck. He passed. We gave him a decal, and down the road he went.
See, that's how it ought to work right there. That's working together, not one against the other, and that's I think where it needs to be. Absolutely. I can tell you a couple of stories, but I'm going to save them. I'm going to save them for another time when you and I get together. I want you to come back to the show and talk with us, and I'm going to get ahead of this a little bit. We'll set up a regular date for a monthly visit from Trooper Dial and have you come back if you're willing to, and hopefully we'll get some guys in here that'll be prepared and ready to ask you some questions.
I would love to come back, John. Like I say, I enjoyed the time that we used to make contact with Dan. Uh, and like I say, I'm sorry that things kind of went by the wayside, but I am glad that you reached out. I am more than happy to sit there and join back up with 10-4 magazine.
Well, here's a picture that I'm going to let us go with, and that's a picture of RJ in front of Old Blue. And Dan sent this to me today and said that it was a real tough challenge to get him and the truck together, or a picture of him, period. And Dan said he did it. He got one, and not only that, that he was smiling and looking at the camera. So all boxes were checked in this picture.
Yep. RJ typically when it came time for someone to take a picture of RJ, he was camera shy.
Yep.
But like I say, you sit there and talk to him, and he just talk up one side, down the other. So, but soon as he saw a camera, forget about it. It ain't gonna happen.
Dan says he sure misses that old man.
Oh yeah, I do too. I miss talking to him every day, and like I say, a lot of times we didn't agree, but there were most of the times we always agreed on some things.
There's a picture of you, sir, a couple days ago.
Yes, sir.
Well, hey, listen, it's been a pleasure talking with you and getting to know you. I want to bring you back. We'll chat offline and set it up. I've got to get to the announcement that I teased everybody with at the beginning of the show, and we'll get this thing going again here. Well, not again, but again here, and make it fun, interactive, and educational, and something everybody looks forward to.
Yes, I like I say, I am more than ready, John.
Awesome. Awesome. Good to have you, sir. Take care of your family and get that hound under control back there. He was good through the whole show. He was letting us know he was there before we went live, but he seems like he calmed down. Take care, sir.
All right, John. Good to see you.
Thank you. All right, guys. Loved having Trooper Dial on the show. Hope you guys did as well, and I hope you all look forward to what we're going to try to do here, and that's bring Ask the Law to Studio 10-4 live. I don't see why XM can have a wrap on it, so we should be able to have our share of it as well. So, and I think we'll have more fun with it. You guys are a great audience, and there's a lot of good 10-4 listeners out there that are here every week. And we'll get those guys in here. Some of them showed up today, and some of them are probably busy doing other things. This time of year, it turns into a little bit of a don't know, because guys are out doing work. Families, graduations are happening. Memorial Day weekend's coming up. There's all kinds of stuff going on. So thanks again to Trooper Dial and his daughter Laura for getting us straightened out on his end so we could go live with him today here on Studio 10-4 Live. All right. So I wish I had a drum roll in here, but I don't. I can just tell you this, once in a while we get celebrity guests in here that they've got something going on that makes them a star somewhere in whatever it is that they do. And in some ways, it can be something very simple. In other ways, there's some talent out there that we get to bring in every now and then. And this is one of those guys. I don't know if you guys remember when I had UFC fighter Max Payne on the show. Max is still out there, still fighting, and now he's talking like he wants to go ahead and go for the gold. So, I'm going to get him in on the show again and talk to him. Brings a great perspective of what it's like to be a UFC fighter, in the mix, relevant, and fighting all the time, and that's Max. This particular gentleman comes from some music royalty that I can't imagine. As soon as I say his name, you're not going to know who I'm talking about. But on June 19th, we're going to have him on the show, and we're going to get to help in the release of a brand new video and song that he's doing, and his name is Way Jennings. And guess whose grandson he is? That's right. Hard not to acknowledge that, but Way's on his own, doing his own thing, and I can only say this: go to YouTube and check out his videos and listen to his music. I'll tell you what, he's got it, and I hope he does well with it. So he's going to be in studio on the 19th of June. We look forward to having him in here. Um, if I'm not mistaken, the song that we're going to be featuring that's not yet released, 10 Days Gone, and it's a trucker tale. I hope to get a hold of the gentleman in the video driving the truck, pulling the end dump that he's got behind his 379, it looks like, and get him in here and chat with him a little bit too, because I think that's a whole nother story. We probably won't do that the same time we get Way in here, but we'll definitely do it when we get a chance to share some time in the studio, and talk about how that went and what it was like running that truck in the video, and all that went on. It's a pretty dang cool video. I can't say anything about it right now yet, because it is, like I said, it's not been released. Few of us have seen it. It's pretty dang cool, but it is definitely a country song and a trucker's tale. So look forward to bringing that to you guys. Check him out at wayjennings.com. Get over there and get a look so you know what you're getting into. Can't wait to have you guys here be a part of that. Thanks again to Trooper Dial for coming in, and I miss Old Blue and that part of what was being represented at the shows. I think that is definitely something that needs to come back. Love to get him back at TFK. Love to get him out at the truck rodeo. Any other shows as well. But I'll tell you, I'd love to get him out at our shows at the very least out here, and make it part of what we do again. I think that's something we should all look forward to. You guys are awesome. I appreciate it. There's a lot of stuff going on events wise coming up. Memorial Day weekend, obviously. Anything truck related, you want to find out an event that's going on, go to 104magazine.com and get over there and check it out. We've got this cool event calendar. Also, a lot of other stuff on here too that I didn't even get into. We'll check it out next week. Want to go through the show report for Mid-America. Great show that it was. Great week in Louisville. A lot of cool stuff. The trucks as pictured here from the Paul K. Young Truck Beauty Championship. And then also, of course, and Dan did a great job with this, the Build Off Reborn story is fantastic. Get in there and check that out. Great photos of the Build Off trucks and the story behind it all. And we certainly want to make sure that these guys get their just dessert. So just deserves. And events right here. Go up here to this tab, click on it, and all the events that are going on that we know about, that we've been informed of, are there for you to figure out if you have time to be there and participate in that event, wherever it might be. So coming up is going to be the NorCal Spring Fling, ATHS National Antique Show, Wheel Jam Truck Show, to name a few, and certainly many, many, many more to come. And ultimately this year, our season's going to wind up at the 10-4 Trucker Rodeo and Show, and that's going to be at the Kevin Harvick's Kern Raceway in Bakersfield, California. So look forward to that. Look forward to seeing everybody at the Souza Memorial, also at Bobtail Apparel. Those will be the two besides the 10-4 Trucker Rodeo that Studio 10-4 Live will be at, which means me, and I'll be there live streaming for you for the shows. There's plenty of other ones to go to, guys. So get yourself over to 104magazine.com, pick them out, see where you're going to go, when you're going to be there. All right, y'all, stay safe. We got another weekend of getting ready for the weekend, and that's the Memorial Day weekend. Keep the shiny side up out there. Y'all stay safe, be good. I'll be back next week with a whole new show, and we'll be talking more about what's coming up in the Memorial Day weekend and how everybody fared for the CVSA, DOT, FMCSA blitz that's going on right now. Hopefully, you guys are in shape, and I know our people are, but hopefully, everybody's in shape and not getting hassled out there and finding anything wrong with those trucks. Take care. Talk to y'all soon.